Alright everybody, welcome back. So, my main man Bill Schopf came up yesterday, he wanted to see the layout, and I put him to work. So, thanks Bill. So what we got done is we got this benchwork in. You can see this here is for the engine facility and a turntable at the far end. Right here is going to be the coal dock, and I'm not yet sure how I'm going to do that because it's actually going to be coming down and the water level it's going to be lower. I know it's not ideal, but that's the way I'm going to do it. So I have this in. So I just wanted to get this captured for posterity. It might be a little bit of overkill, but you know, so what? Lumber isn't terribly expensive, and I actually had a lot of the 1x4s left over. Now, for the actual turntable itself, let me just pause this quick and move up to where that's going to be. Alright, so the turntable is going to be right in this big spot here. And what I decided to do, just because I'm a nervous Nelly, is I actually went out to the big box home improvement store and I bought a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of relatively good plywood. That matches the existing plywood. And I just felt, you know, I don't want to mess around with the turntable. I don't want it to be wobbly at all. So I said, you know what, whatever, I'll spend the 25 bucks for that piece of plywood. And anyway, so I'm going to have to notch it out a little bit to fit. It's basically going to come up to here and then back that whole area. So then the turntable, I'll have to cut that out. That'll be fun there. That's where the Roundhouse will be, and Shorty Parker's machine shop that I got from his light will be there as well. I was really wanting to go with a smaller piece, just for the turntable, and then use foam because I want to put pits in the Roundhouse. The floor is already kind of cut out for that, but I can do it in the plywood. I did it on the last layout. It's a little bit more work for sure, but what I figure is if I get it in, get everything marked, if I have to I can even print the track plan off, but it's basically just straight lines coming back here. Take it out in the garage, cut these. I'm going to bring it back down, set it in there, make sure it fits, lay the template from Walthers on there, mark it, maybe even try to mark, you know, where the slots have to be for the pits, which is risky if you do that ahead of time. Do you trust yourself? I'm not sure I do, but maybe I won't anyway. And then take it out in the garage, cut the opening for the turntable, bring it back, you know, put the Walthers pit in, make sure it fits and everything like that. And then go from there. I mean, I could always cut these slots out with a saber saw here in the basement. It's just loud and dusty and that kind of stuff. So that's where we are. Again, I just want to capture that. I'm about to head out in the garage now, and I measure the notches that I need to fit it in there. And that'll make that a nice sturdy area. Probably could have done it with foam if I was a little bit smarter, but I'm kind of a bull in a china shop, so I went back to my just, you know, cutting plywood. I can do that. Not very well, but I can do it. So that's where that's going to be at. And then, you know, moving up, I don't know if I'll be able to show, if you can see those turnouts there. So this far track goes behind the coaling tower. That's for the coal and ash, you know, to come out. These three actually all go up to the turntable. And this one here runs straight up to it. So it's almost kind of right along that board, straight to the turntable. I did lay the template in there, and it seems like it's going to line up okay. This board's a little out of cattywampus here, but it'll be fine. Once you get everything in and get the fascia up, I don't think that's going to be a major, it certainly isn't a major concern of mine, to be honest with you. Alright, so let's get that cut. Let's see if I can get this in place and hopefully make everything fit. Okay, here we are. I got the plywood cut, and I didn't butcher it up too bad. So what I'm doing here to get everything lined up, obviously it's not super critical, but I want to get it pretty close. So what I did, I know this track goes straight to the bridge. So I laid in a 6-foot rule here. And what I did, I know it's probably not perfect, I measured from here, from the rail, not the ties because they're off a slight amount, probably wouldn't have been a huge deal, but from the rail to here, it's about 4 5/8 at this end. So I kept it 4 5/8. up to this end. And I know that assumes that this track is, you know, parallel in the way I want it, but again, I think it's close enough. So then ran this up onto the Walthers template, you know, and then lined up, you know, the center line for that 90-degree track to come in. So that set that one up. I did mark previously the center line, you know, where the turntable sits from that wall over there. And I'm close. If I measure what I have here to what the plan says, I'm off by about 3/16, which is close enough for me. And again, this is not super critical in here. Really, it's where I want to put it. Obviously, make sure it clears. This is a little bit important, but again, as you can see, I have over a 6-foot run from those turnouts up there, so I got plenty of room to squiggle the track an eighth if I have to. Not going to be a huge deal. So this one track will come straight in. There's another track in between these two. That'll come in at the 80-degree line. This one track here will come up at the 70-degree line. There's one more on this side that'll come out at the 100-degree and go down. And the other track is for the coal and the ash pit. That won't come up to the turntable. So, it looks okay. I know I can't get too close. I apologize for that, but I want to get this set. And then I guess what I'm going to do, again, I don't claim to be a master carpenter. This is not the new Yankee workshop, for sure. Maybe just kind of pinprick around here. And then draw it out, then take it up and hope for the best. I know I'll mess this cut up, but there's a little bit of play here, so I'll do the best I can, just take my time, try to get a relatively clean circle out of that. Oh boy. I did verify against the plan, and that's why it's hard to see, but you know where this is, again, it's pretty close. It's within 3/16 and 1/8, which really is fine. And then behind that will be so in this area here, on the turntable, this will be the 3-stall roundhouse. It'll all sit on this. So again, like I said, I don't know if I want to try to cut the openings for the pits in this, or wait until I get it situated and mark it, which is probably the smarter thing to do. Because once I get this open and lay the Walthers pit in, you know, I can lay out the track and everything. And I do need to figure out what I'm going to do. I'll put some more plywood in here, or switch to foam. I'm not sure. There may be pits for the ash pit. The cooling tower won't, because I'm going to load. Well, I guess I could anyway. So I need to figure out if I want to do something along in here. I'll think about that. So I guess the next thing I'm going to do, sit back, say a few Hail Marys, you know, mark this, you know, mark the center and everything like that, and then take it out in the garage and cut it. And then hopefully everything lines up, although I think it should. I think if I take my time, I don't have the world's best jigsaw, but I think it'll work okay. I hope so. He says hopefully. All right, enough babbling. Let's get it marked and get it out and get it cut and see what we come up with. Okay, getting ready to cut out this wonderful circle. What I decided to do, and again, I am by no means a carpenter. I had the plan down on here. I pricked the center line there, so I knew where that was, and then drew the 2 center lines so I could see that. I went around a couple spots and prick punched it. I did prick punch and then mark in blue the 5/16 holes at the drill for the, I think there's some protrusions on the outside of the pit. And then I thought, you know, I'm not going to be able to draw a nice circle to cut this out, and I want to try to do it somewhat sophisticated. So what I came up with, and again, I'm not saying this is going to be, people are going to laugh at me. So I had this old wooden ruler, and just here at the 2-inch line, I drilled a hole and then put a brad, you know, a little nail through it. And I drilled a 1/16-inch hole there in the center, and then that sits in there. And then I measured out with a tape measure, because this, I'm not sure how accurate these markings are. Probably not real accurate at all. But I measured out 7 and 25/32. I mean, come on, Walthers, really? This really has to be to a 32nd? I am not a to the 32nd type of guy. Anyway, and then I drilled a hole out there, just enough for the tip of the pencil to fit in, and then went ahead and scribed me a circle. And it's close. I think it's close, because I could tell it was relatively close, because it would, you know, hit kind of the tip of the pencil would fall into the little holes that I had put through. Now, there's some, obviously some Kentucky windage in those, because I was just guessing based on the big black line they have on the plan. But then I had to cut this off because it was way too long, so I sacrificed it. Then I just kind of sketched it around, and there's a nice 15 and 9/16 diameter, 7 and 25/32 radius. So now I'm going to go up. I'll have to probably drill a hole to start, and then get the jigsaw, and hopefully not make this look too bad. So, all right, more to come as I forge ahead here at the new Moron workshop. Ta-da! So there it is. It's I was able to cobble the hole up okay and get that in there. Seemed to fit okay. I came across one issue. Let me pull the plan in over here. Pretty much everything went per the Walthers template, except for, and I'll show you they show one of these 5/16 drill outs to the south of where the optical sensor is, and you do got to notch that little bit out too, which I just did with a jigsaw. Just kind of made some stripes and broke it out because I don't have anything fancy. That hole is actually on this side. It's on the north. Same dimension. And I was looking at it, and all the other ones lined up and fit real nice. So if you have this, at least on this template, this is the version that I have. I don't know if they've caught that, if other customers have told them that, but this is exactly the way I'm lining my turntable up. And my no track area will be here, because I'm not going to have any track. It's all going to be to the left and to the right. Yeah, that hole, it's not there, it's up there. So let me just pull the pit out, and I'll show you that. Alright, hopefully that's visible. So the template calls for this notch, and that is correct. That's right on the center line. That's for the optical sensor. Then it calls for the hole to be here, but it's not. It's up here. And then this is all ugly looking, because when I drilled it, it was a little bit far away, and as opposed to coming back and trying to elongate the hole, I just took the jigsaw and went and just got it out of there. So anyway, it works. Yeah, because all these 5/16 holes are really close to the edge. They don't have to be through holes. They could be a blind hole if you have the appropriate drill bit. I don't, so I just drilled it. And you can see how some of them... Actually, I'm going to actually just do this on all of them, just in case the pin's a little closer to the edge so it doesn't rock or anything like that. You know, just take that little bit out so it fits down in there. I don't think it's a huge deal. Alright, so, like I said, the only real issue I had, after just taking my time and going nice and slow with my Craftsman saber saw or jigsaw, was the one mounting 5/16 hole. It's shown on the south, and it should be to the north. Okay, so now I need to add a couple more pieces of 1x to support it. I might put a little plate underneath here because there's no real support, just to keep everything nice and level in there. And then I can kind of get this piece down and figure out what I want to do any more plywood wise over here on the run-in tracks that are coming into the turntable. And then, oh, another thing that I think I'm going to have to do something, because I had it, you saw I had it sitting there with the lip right on this. I think that's going to be too low, because my plan was to, you know, put cork on top of this. I think if I do that, I think I'm going to have to cork all the way up to here, cut out a cork opening, punch these through the cork. Otherwise, I think it'll sit too low. I don't know that it actually told you anything about that in the instructions. And I'll try it, but it sure looks like with the lip that's on there, it's set for the, you cut out a couple ties, bring the rails in, and it's going to be flush with the bridge. So I'm probably going to have to put cork on this, cut the opening, knock these out. But okay, anyway, the hard part for me is done, which is this hole here. So we'll keep moving along and recording as we make some progress. Alrighty, a little more in progress here in the engine service area. And what I decided to do, I had to go out of town for work. So while I was gone, while you were away, I put a piece in here to fill this in because that one engine or machine shop might come over a little bit. So I just filled it in with some foam. That's a piece of N gauge cork that kind of levels it out nice. And then if I put another piece of cork, everything there will be nice and level, and I can just do some little bit of scenery up to the edge of that. Did a similar maneuver, the slow pan on this side. Added some stuff out here. This is just going to have whatever little buildings or scenery goes to the edge, but the tracks are going to be on the plywood. But I want to get that all filled in. A little bit here where it comes onto that foam for a tiny bit, and this is where you really start to find out how close or how good your bench work is, because sometimes the 1x4s are off a little bit, and that's where you start to notice things when you try to level everything. But we'll get through that. So this is all set and ready to go. The next thing I'll do here is put the actual HO gauge cork. HO gauge just being, I think it's 3/16 thick versus the N gauge, which is an 8. I don't know. Anyway, that's what it's called by Midwest. So back on here, what I did for the pit, if I want to get the actual pit openings cut in the plywood, the way I'm going to do it, you don't have to do it this way, is I want to get them cut in the plywood before I put the cork over it. You could put the cork on it and mark it and cut it, not an issue. You could, it's a little bit messier. But to me, I want to mark it on the plywood, cut the pit openings, lay the cork, and then it's very easy with a knife to go back and just cut the openings. That's just the way I want to do it. So what I did was, for the template, it's all blown out here. Let me see if I can. What I did was, I cut it out because I wanted to be able to mark accurately. I'm not a geometrically savvy dude, so I used the 10-degree markings on the template itself. So I cut it out right at the edge, so it's sitting right on the lip of the actual turntable pit. Ta-da! Under there. Don't worry about this. That's just because that's where the markings were better. That no track area is actually going to be this way. So again, that's just a piece of paper. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the roundhouse in here. See how it is. Mark where I would want to cut these 3 openings for the pits, and then get them cut. And then the other pits that I would have to cut, if I really so desire it, in here for the ash hoists. The coaling tower, I'm going to kind of modify the way I use the Walthers tower. The coal just comes in the center of it, and I'll say there's a pit there that it drops. I'm not too worried about it. But could have 2 other pits in here, and maybe also up by the new diesel area, which is here, maybe a pit as well for them to kind of hop underneath, and some running repairs and whatnot on diesel locomotives. So I got to think about that. But whatever I'm going to do, I want to do it on this. And then again, to me, it's a lot easier to put the cork on, then mark all the track, and then just come back with that knife, utility knife, and cut openings in the cork. So let me get the roundhouse out. I actually brought it downstairs, set it in there, and see how things are looking to line up here. Okay, so that's the roundhouse that I'm going to use. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 90% of the people viewing this will not have any idea what that is. Not that it's not a roundhouse, but the kit itself, it's not an American prototype. It's an MBZ kit by Thomas Oswald that I bought for the European layout that I was doing in the past. So it's a European prototype. I tried to Americanize it a little bit when I built it. It's good enough. I put a lot of work into it, so it's what I'm using. Now, one of the issues with it is the stalls are aligned at 9 degrees, and it appears the Walthers turntable is set up for 10 degrees. So, in order to get this to work right, I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of ink and ink with the tracks going into there. But that should look okay. So what I did was I kind of set it in place where I think it's going to go. I marked the actual center lines of the stalls themselves, which on here is the leftmost line. That's the 10-degree line. So you can see, you know, this outer, obviously the outer stall here and here are off a little bit. I'm probably not exactly placed this way, because in theory these two dimensions should be exactly the same. They're close. It's close enough for model railroading. You know, sometimes model railroaders think everything's got to be down to the nanometer and that we're building space shuttles, but we're not. So if I do that, I think I'll be able to get the track and then have to curve it a little bit to line up with this. Although I could check and see if the Walthers turntable, I don't know if that 10 degrees is set or if that's a, I don't know if that's, you know, a variable spacing. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm definitely going to use this. Here's the back side. I did mark the back. You probably can't see it, but it's all detailed on the interior, all lit. On the interior, I left this back piece of roof removable so you can peek in there. I mean, I probably put $500 worth of freaking details in this side of this thing, so I'm using this damn thing. I think I'll be fine. I did mark based on the stalls and the centers of the stalls and off of these track lines where I'm going to cut the pits, the opening for the pits. So let me move this and we can take a look at that. Alright, so here I have it marked. You can see the line, again the lines are off in the back a little bit. That's because there's the 10 degree and kind of the 9 degree markings. But this is where the pits would be if I cut those openings. And I do have, it's a Pico Code 83. You can see on the side there's a little bit of leeway side to side, which is good. So you can always play with it, you know, side to side a little bit. So that's probably where I'm going to do it. I'll just, you know, if I had to drill a hole here as a start and then get the jigsaw and just cut that bad boy out. Those bad boys, because there's 3 of them. And then get the cork on, remark all of this. But then again, I'm doing it that way because to me it's a lot easier to cut through this without cork on top of it. And then just with a knife I can cut those openings. And then, you know, cut the opening for this and then lay the pit itself back in there. And everything's nice, gonna be nice and flush. So I'll put that piece in the back there, then another piece of cork over it so everything's good and flush. So, alright, so I'm going on a wing and a prayer here. Go ahead and get those cut. And again, I think with the leeway that I have in this, if I'm off, I can always, you know, fiddle with it slightly. Just enough. Again, it's not a Swiss watch, it's just a model railroad. So I think I'll be able to make everything fit together and work just fine. Okie doke, got these notched out for the pits, and they seem okay. And then, like I said, they have a little bit of wiggle room left and right. Not a whole lot, but enough. I actually wish they had more like this, just because it gives you the flexibility to make sure you're lined right. But so they're all in. Got the jigsaw out and just cut it, and it was fun because as I was cutting, I kind of glanced over here, and this is what I was worried about. That truck is, you can see the load there on the, it got turned sideways, that trailer's bouncing, so hopefully nothing else dislodged or came loose or fell. I was a little concerned about that, but it seems okay. But you got to get it done. So now, cork. Put the cork on this. And I'm going to cork right over everything and then come back and cut everything back out. I'll have to realign, you know, redraw the track lines. But that shouldn't be all that terrible to do. And then once the cork's in here, I can bring all these tracks, you know, lay everything out, figure out where I want to cut other pits for the ash hoists, center hoists, and whatnot. So I'm going to keep pushing ahead here, try to get this glue down and get the cork in and get things drying up. Alrighty, so here is the layout. excuse me, no track yet, but I did want to put some things in and kind of start to get a feel for where I might want to position things, especially if I need to, add some more pits. That takes quite a bit more work. So I'll kind of do an aerial view here and kind of talk about my thoughts, and I'm going to ask for the viewers that may know a little bit more about engine terminal operations, how this may be laid out. So, all right, so basically back here you have your roundhouse, and it's a small roundhouse, like a lot of the modern power that I'll run probably won't fit in it. I'm saying it was geared more for the smaller, I don't know, H6 SBs and some of the earlier locomotives that were used before they got bigger stuff. On the side there, that's Shorty's machine shop that I'd like to fit in. That smokestack, I had that originally on this side of the roundhouse, but it's so close to the aisle, it makes me nervous. And I have this little I don't know, fuel or some sort of tank of lubricating oil or something there that's piped in as well. So I may kind of cover up where I had the hole just there for that smokestack and move it to the back, or just leave it off altogether. I don't know. Alright, so here's where I don't know exactly how they would lay this out. Okay, let me go to the other end, because what I envision, at least in some of the work that some of the research I've done, is, let's say you're a steam locomotive, alright, and you come in off a train, however you're coming, east, west, whatever, coal train, whatever, you come in pretty much on this track, I'm calling the inbound track. So you would come up, if you need to, you drop your ash here, and there's a gondola. I guess it's a gondola they use for ash. That's one of Shorty's right there. All right, then you come up and you get coal. And again, this is 2 coal cars there just to see if they would fit. I probably should put a pit in for that. So that and that, would require pits, so I need to know where I'm going to place those. So you get coal, then you come up and you get sand. That's a Fairbanks Morse 15 cubic yard double track sand tower. And then there's a spot for a gondola. I guess it'd be a gondola to get sand, which means the poor guy's got to shovel it, but I don't think sand came in on covered hoppers. So I think that's a manual maneuver. And then you come up, you get water. And I'm going to say that the water tower or water tank, which will be a larger one, is off the layout. It's over here somewhere. I don't have room to put it in. So, all right. So then you get water. You come up, you spin, or if you need to, or you go into the stall. If depends what's going on with the power. If not, this far track here, I'm kind of calling a ready track. So you come back out. It's hard to tell. All I have are red lines right now. But basically, this track here is a ready track. So you come up. You sit there and simmer away and, wait for the next duty call. That seems to be the way that these facilities are sort of laid out. It was like ash, cinders, coal, sand, water. Now, if anyone knows different, let me know. And what I did do as well, and this is not a major terminal, so I don't do serious amounts of work. But, again, if you come in and you just need, say, sand and water, or maybe coal. So you would come in, you get coal, you go up, you spin around, and then on the ready track itself, this water column can reach, and I added another sand column here. I had it. It's a Walthers one. So I figured if all you're doing is coal, water, sand, all right, you come in, get coal, spin, come out, water, sand, you're good, and you're on the ready track, so you come up and you wait. Now, if you're a diesel locomotive, and this was added later in history, in time. Again, this is from Shorty's layout. I'm going to modify this a little bit. Probably take them off of the base and add a new base to fit the track space and everything. But basically for diesels, I think you'd come in, you get water, sand, fuel, and then you're pretty much good. Now an AB unit may need to flip, spin on the turntable. If you're an AA unit, obviously you wouldn't need to. So they would kind of either come here and wait, or go over to the ready track and wait, or something like that. So that's what I think would work if I was going to do something like that. I added some tanks over here for fuel, diesel fuel, maybe some water. I'm not sure how the sand gets piped down. I guess I'll say they ran it underground. And then I put a tank car there. So, okay, so we could spot a tank car there to bring in diesel fuel for the locomotives. And I have some other buildings, smaller sheds I can place in here and there. What I'm trying to get is what's the main thrust of this, and where do I need to dig pits? Now, for diesels, I was going to say, well, I'll add a pit. I don't know, would the pit be here? Would it be somewhere here? So that if you bring it up, you're not hogging up this area. If you need to come up here and have your undercarriage inspected, then you could still bring another unit in here and sand it and do your stuff to it and get it out of the way if you needed to. So I don't know, but I don't know if this facility would be large or involved enough to have a pit for diesels. I don't know. Tell me. I'm really not sure. And again, if for a diesel, you can either come in and just sit there or move over to the ready track. And there's also come another ready track. This track as well, which does have access to the turntable, can be another ready track. So I kind of have two ready tracks. One I'm calling an inbound and an outbound. And then the service track for the diesel, removing the ash, coal, and sand. So that's what I'm looking at. Does that make sense? Does anyone out there have any ideas, how a railroad may lay this out? Although I've seen lots and lots of variety in how these are set up. I don't think there's no one better say you would never do this or they always do this, because I guarantee you could find a prototype that didn't do it that way. But overall, I'm saying that this is newer. This is the diesel area. You come in, if you're a steam locomotive, you come in, you've got cinders, ash, coal, sand, water, roundhouse, turntable, spin, come back out, two ready tracks to sit on. And I'm also, if you notice, I'm kind of leaving this area open here. Now I could put a pit there, that'd be fine, because you actually can carefully reach to do some uncoupling. So that's important. You can certainly reach the piggyback area here. You can almost reach back, if you're a little bit taller than me, to the industry as well. Now I do have some uncouplers back there, but I'm trying to think of that as well. How can you access that if you need to uncouple things back there when you're switching? And you will. You can see how the reach is, but you can. And I'm not a tall dude, so anyone else of a little more vertical height with longer arms probably could reach back there to uncouple carefully. I'm not saying you're going to go crazy, but that's why I kind of was looking to space this and trying to leave some access to the piggyback yard and that industry back there. And I don't care if you uncouple here and push a car back, with the skewer or something like that. I'm not worried about that. I don't care, because you certainly wouldn't be able to reach over the coaling tower to get back in there. Plus, I'm not sure I want guys reaching under the gantry crane to try to uncouple cars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and post this now, get some comments back, see if anyone out there is a little bit smarter than me in the ways of locomotive servicing. So I'm going to wait a little bit to see before I actually decide where I want to place these and actually notch out for pits and that kind of good stuff. But what I can do and what I will continue doing is work on the turntable. Obviously I can work all the tracks this way, get that installed, get this installed, test it out, figure out where I'm going to put the control. So I still got work to do. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this video, get it up, hopefully get some feedback from smarter folks than me. I say smarter, I just wasn't around in that era, so I don't have any real experience. Plus I'm not a railroader, so I don't really know how they might set this up. But someone out there is smart enough to tell me, yep, overall that makes sense, or it's plausible. Or they might have switched the water and the sand, or I don't know, but to me it kind of makes sense. And I also like, well, originally I had the sand over here, but I said, well, wait a minute, this way, if they're right, now this is only based on the locomotive, but they could pull up, water the tender, sand the locomotive at the same time. But that seems to me to be a stretch, only because, yeah, for a certain locomotive it might work, but it certainly wouldn't work. You bring an H10 in here, it may work. You bring a J1 in there, it probably won't work to be able to do that. So maybe it wouldn't matter, but This again would keep this closer to the, the piping and whatnot for the sand area. So again, maybe I'm thinking too much into this. It's just a darn model railroad. Just set it up and have fun. But anyone who knows, let me know. I'm going to shut up, stop babbling, and we'll continue on. But I would love to get some feedback from people on how that facility may be set up in the real world. So again, thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing some comments on this.